First contact fiasco. Commander Rachel Harrison stood at the helm of the Stellar Pioneer, trying her best to maintain a straight face. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she'd finally made first contact with an advanced alien civilization. The problem wasn't their technological sophistication. It was the fact that their ships looked like someone had given a geometry-obsessed kindergartner unlimited supplies and told them to design a space fleet. "Ma'am," Lieutenant James Kumar whispered from his sensor station, "I've counted exactly 47 perfect spheres, 32 cubes, and 23 pyramids, all connected by, are those golden spiral staircases. They appear to be purely decorative." Science Officer Natasha Volkov replied, her voice trembling with suppressed laughter. "The structural integrity calculations must be fascinating." The massive alien fleet hung in space before them, each vessel polished to mirror brightness and covered in mathematical formulae etched in gleaming gold. They were arranged in what appeared to be a perfect Fibonacci spiral, though several ships were still nudging themselves into position with microscopic thruster burns. Approaching vessel of unknown configuration, a pristinely modulated voice rang through their communication system. "You have entered the space of the most precise and mathematically harmonious regularity empire. Please maintain your current position while we complete our ceremonial greeting formation. Estimated time to completion: 4.873 hours. Harrison exchanged glances with her bridge crew. 4 hours to arrange their ships. 4.873 hours, Commander, the voice corrected. Precision is paramount. Perhaps we could begin diplomatic discussions while your ships complete their maneuvers, Harrison suggested diplomatically. There was a long pause. Irregular, the voice finally declared. Most irregular. All first contact procedures must follow the sacred sequence. Step 1. Formation alignment. Step 2. Ceremonial light pattern display. Step 3. Recitation of the 17,000 primary theorems off. We come from Earth, Harrison interrupted, sensing this could go on for days. We're on a mission of peaceful exploration and would be honored to learn about your civilization. Another pause, longer this time. Earth. We have no record of this designation. All civilized worlds are documented in the Great Celestial Registry. Please provide your civilization's geometric optimization rating and quantum harmony coefficient. We don't have those, Harrison admitted. We just sort of built ships and started exploring. The silence that followed was so profound that Harrison wondered if they'd lost communications. When the voice returned, it sounded faint, almost weak. You explored without proper certification, without filing the required documentation in quintuplicate, without establishing your civilization's primary geometric aesthetic. We're kind of improvisational, Harrison explained, immediately regretting her word choice. Improvisational. The voice rose to a pitch that made several bridge officers wince. This is unprecedented, unthinkable, mathematical heresy of the highest order. The perfect formation of ships before them wavered slightly, several vessels drifting minutely out of position, as if their operators were too shocked to maintain precise control. Perhaps a new voice cut in, sounding slightly less horrified. We should convene an emergency session of the Council of Supreme Calculation to address this situation. How long would that take? Harrison asked, already dreading the answer. With all proper protocols observed, approximately 3.2 months. Harrison pinched the bridge of her nose. Look, what if we just invited some of your representatives aboard? We could show you how we do things. You could teach us about proper procedures. Board your vessel. The first voice had returned, now sounding scandalized. But it's asymmetrical. Harrison looked around her bridge with its practical, function-first design. Yes, she agreed. Yes, it is. And it works perfectly fine. Committee meeting. Both alien voices declared simultaneously. We must convene a committee to discuss the philosophical implications of functional asymmetry. As the alien ships began an elaborate series of maneuvers that apparently constituted their version of an emergency meeting, Harrison turned to her crew. "Well," she said with a smile, "I think we just introduced chaos theory to a civilization that worships geometric perfection. This should be interesting." "Commander," Kumar called out, checking his readings, "they're sending us a preliminary first contact questionnaire. It's, 40,000 pages long. The first section is entirely about our understanding of perfect circles." Harrison settled into her deliberately ergonomic, and therefore asymmetrical, command chair. "Send them our ship's technical specifications. Let's see how they handle the concept of form following function, and the fact that we sometimes eyeball measurements," Volkov added with a grin. "Let's not give them too many existential crises on day one," Harrison replied. "Though I can't wait to show them Earth's architecture. The Leaning Tower of Pisa might just make their heads explode." As the regulatory ships continued their perfectly choreographed dance of bureaucratic panic, the crew of the Stellar Pioneer settled in for what promised to be the most entertaining first contact in human history. Sometimes, Harrison reflected, the best way to make history was to simply be yourself, even if yourself was a chaos-embracing species in a universe of perfect order. Protocol pandemonium. The first sign that this wasn't going to be a typical diplomatic meeting came when the regulatory delegation spent 3 hours measuring the Pioneer's airlock to ensure it met their standards of geometric precision. Commander Harrison watched through the security feed as 6 aliens in immaculately pressed silver uniforms used golden calipers to measure every angle of the entry port. "They're going to lose it when they see the mess hall," Lieutenant Kumar muttered, watching one of the aliens meticulously document a 0.02-degree deviation in the airlock's roundness. Finally, First Administrator Perfect Angle. Harrison was assured this was a simplified translation of his actual 17-part title, entered the ship, leading a procession of officials walking in perfect hexagonal formation. Each took exactly 1 step every 2 seconds, their movements synchronized to atomic precision. "Welcome aboard the Stellar Pioneer," Harrison greeted them, having waited 15 minutes for them to walk 30 meters from the airlock. "We're honored to." "Your ceiling," Perfect Angle interrupted, his silver pupil eyes wide with horror. "It curves irregularly. That's for optimal structural support," Chief Engineer Puddle explained, then immediately regretted it as all 12 regularly produced data tablets simultaneously. "Optimal." First Administrator Perfect Angle's voice carried the same tone humans might use for discovering something unpleasant stuck to their shoe. "Please provide the mathematical proof of this optimization, including all relevant geometric theorems and at least 3,000 supporting calculations." "We kind of used computer modeling in practical testing," Patil admitted. The sound of 12 tablets clattering to the floor echoed through the corridor. One of the regulari appeared to be hyperventilating. "Perhaps," Harrison intervened smoothly, "we could proceed with the cultural exchange. We've prepared a presentation about Earth and human civilization." Perfect Angle squared his shoulders. Literally, Harrison watched him use a small device to ensure they were at exactly 90 degrees. "Very well. Though I must warn you that proper protocol requires us to document all instances of geometric imperfection for the Archive of Horror." The delegation made their way to the conference room, each step precisely measured, each turn exactly calculated. Harrison had deliberately chosen their smallest conference room, hoping to keep things informal. This proved to be a mistake. "There are 13 chairs," one of the regulatory observers noted with visible distress. 13 is a prime number. Prime numbers are inherently chaotic. We cannot conduct official business in a room with a prime number of furnishings. "I'll remove a chair," Kumar offered. 12 is divisible by 2, 3, 4, and 6, Perfect Angle declared. Much more civilized. Though he ran a scanner over the conference table, this surface deviates from perfect flatness by 0.003 millimeters. Most concerning. Harrison started her presentation, trying to focus on humanity's achievements in mathematics and science, hoping to find common ground. This worked until she mentioned that humans had once debated whether pi was rational. DDBAT, perfect angle, looked ready to faint. One does not DEBAT mathematical truth. One simply calculates to the proper number of decimal places, as specified in Protocol 7249b, subsection gamma. Things got worse when they reached the portion about human architecture. But nothing is perfectly aligned. One of the junior administrators wailed, staring at a photo of the Sydney Opera House. Where are the right angles? Why does it curve like that? What mad geometry is this? We find beauty in variety, Harrison tried to explain. In creative expression and artistic. Creative. Perfect angle's voice had risen 2 octaves. You mean, you intentionally deviate from mathematical perfection. For aesthetic purposes. Sometimes we even, Harrison paused, knowing this would be rough, improvise. The word hung in the air like a mathematical obscenity. 3 of the regulari began reciting what appeared to be geometric proofs to calm themselves. Perfect angle's face had taken on the color of old oatmeal. "Commander," he said finally, his voice tight with forced control, "I begin to understand why your species was unknown to us. You exist in a state of geometric anarchy. We prefer to think of it as adaptability," Harrison replied. "Speaking of which, would you like to see our hydroponics bay? The plants grow in quite organic patterns." "Organic?" Perfect angle whispered the word like a curse. "You mean non-geometric life forms, growing without precise mathematical planning. Nature tends to have its own mathematics," Science Officer Volkov interjected helpfully. "The Fibonacci sequence, for instance." "Ah," perfect angle brightened slightly. "Finally, something properly structured. Please, show us these Fibonacci patterns." "Well," Volkov continued, "they're more guidelines really. Nature tends to approximate." Nate. The word echoed through the conference room like a mathematical thunderclap. "Guidelines. Are you suggesting that even your mathematical patterns are imprecise?" Harrison watched as the entire regularity delegation struggled to process this concept. Perfect angle had begun compulsively straightening his already perfectly straight uniform. Another administrator was drawing perfect circles on his tablet, presumably for comfort. "Perhaps," Harrison suggested gently, "we should break for lunch. Our chef makes excellent geometric sandwiches. You cut them into triangles." Perfect angle asked hopefully. "Sometimes," Kumar replied truthfully. "Sometimes circles, or rectangles, whatever feels right at the moment." The sound of 12 beings processing the concept of spontaneous sandwich geometry filled the room. Perfect angle's right eye had developed a distinct twitch. "Commander," he said finally, "I believe we may need to convene an emergency session of the High Council of Geometric Orthodoxy. Your species represents a unique challenge to our understanding of civilized behavior." Harrison nodded sympathetically, already composing in her head what would surely be the most entertaining first contact report in human history. "Of course. Though you might want to wait until after we show you our abstract art collection." Perfect angle's expression suggested he wasn't entirely sure whether to be intrigued or terrified by whatever abstract might mean. Given humanity's track record so far, terror was probably the safer bet. The efficiency crisis. The real trouble began when Second Administrator Precise Vector accidentally witnessed Lieutenant Kumar fix a malfunctioning door panel in under 5 minutes. "Stop." Precise Vector's voice cracked with panic. "Where is your repair authorization form? Your geometric assessment chart? Your triple redundant calculation verification?" Kumar paused, multi-tool in hand, the door already sliding smoothly open and close. It was just a loose connection. Basic troubleshooting. Basic trouble-shooting. Each word seemed to physically pain the administrator. "You mean you diagnosed and repaired a mechanical fault without following the sacred sequence of maintenance?" "Well, yeah," Kumar shrugged. "Would you like to see how?" "No." Precise Vector backed away, clutching his tablet like a shield. "This is a violation of at least 73 maintenance protocols. The proper procedure requires a minimum of 14 days, beginning with the formation of the assessment committee. The news spread through the regulatory delegation like wildfire, or, as they would prefer, like a precisely calculated cascade of information transfer protocols. By the end of the ship's day cycle, Perfect Angle himself had arrived at Harrison's office, looking distinctly ruffled. "Commander," he began, his usual pristine posture showing signs of stress, "we have become aware of numerous irregularities in your operational procedures." "Oh." Harrison kept her face carefully neutral. "Your crew members are performing tasks without proper documentation, making decisions without consulting the relevant committees, solving problems through, he shuddered, improvisation. Is that a problem?" Perfect Angle produced a holographic display showing 2 timelines. "According to our calculations, your method of spacecraft operation completes tasks approximately 743.6% faster than our approved procedures." "That sounds efficient," Harrison noted. "Efficient?" Perfect Angle's voice rose. "It's catastrophic. Do you realize what would happen if our people learned that tasks could be completed without proper geometric harmonization, without the sacred 14 levels of administrative approval? They might get more done." "Exactly." Perfect Angle collapsed into a chair, then immediately straightened it to perfect right angles with the desk. "Our entire society is built on the perfect balance of procedure and precision. If word of your method spreads, it could cause unprecedented chaos." As if to prove his point, a junior regulatory administrator burst into the office, forgetting to perform the proper entry sequence of 17 precise steps. First Administrator. The young official was practically vibrating with distress. The human engineering chief just completed a Level 3 power conduit optimization in 2 hours, without consulting the manual of power flow geometries, without even forming a single committee. Perfect Angle made a sound like a geometry theorem being strangled. 2 hours, but the standard procedure takes 6 months, and it works better than the old system, the junior administrator added in a whisper, looking both horrified and fascinated. Harrison watched as Perfect Angle struggled to process this information. His perfectly ordered worldview was clearly crumbling in the face of human efficiency. "There's more," the junior administrator continued, now unable to stop. "I saw their maintenance crew fix a gravitational fluctuation by. He lowered his voice to a scandalized whisper, hitting it with a wrench. "Percussive maintenance," Harrison explained helpfully. "Sometimes works wonders." Perfect Angle's eye twitch had returned with a vengeance. "Commander," he said finally, "I fear we may have severely underestimated the threat your species poses to galactic stability." "Threat?" Harrison raised an eyebrow. "We're just solving problems." "Exactly. Without proper procedures. Without the sacred geometries. Do you have any idea what would happen if our people learned they could simply do things without waiting for approval from the committee for approval of waiting for committee approvals?" As if in answer, another regulatory officer appeared at the door, actually running, a sight that made Perfect Angle gasp in horror. The human medical officer, the newcomer reported breathlessly, just treated a minor injury without filing a single form. She applied something called a Band-Aid without even measuring the wound's geometric properties. Perfect Angle turned to Harrison with an expression of desperate pleading. "Commander, you must understand. Our society has achieved perfect order through perfect procedure. Every action, every decision, properly documented and approved. No chaos, no uncertainty, no efficiency." "And how's that working out for you?" Harrison asked gently. Before Perfect Angle could answer, his tablet chimed with an urgent message. His eyes widened as he read it. "This is impossible," he whispered. "A group of our junior engineers, after observing your crew, they've begun experimenting with rapid prototyping and trial and error, without filing the proper documentation for experimental procedures." Harrison tried not to smile as she watched the inevitable collision between unstoppable human practicality and immovable regulatory bureaucracy. Change can be scary, she offered, but sometimes it's necessary. Perfect Angle stared at his tablet, where reports of unauthorized efficiency were apparently multiplying. "Commander," he said finally, his voice hollow, "I believe we may need to quarantine your vessel. Your chaos is infectious." Or, Harrison suggested, "we could show you how much more you could accomplish with a little less procedure and a little more flexibility." The look Perfect Angle gave her suggested she'd just proposed rewriting the laws of physics, which, given the Regulary's devotion to mathematical perfection, might actually have been less shocking. As more reports of unauthorized productivity flooded in, Harrison couldn't help but wonder if they'd just accidentally started a revolution. Not with weapons or politics, but with the simple human notion that sometimes the best solution was the quick and dirty one. The universe, she reflected, had a sense of humor after all, even if it wasn't geometrically perfect. Operation Spontaneity. According to their emergency protocol manual, Volkov replied, reading from her screen, "The standard evacuation procedure requires." She paused, double-checking the number. 12 days. "They have 47 minutes," Harrison stated flatly. 46 now, Kumar corrected. Harrison opened a channel to the Regulatory command ship. "First Administrator, we need to act now. That station has to be evacuated immediately." Perfect Angle's image appeared on screen, surrounded by frantically calculating administrators. Impossible. The emergency station evacuation sequence requires proper geometric alignment of all escape vessels. The calculation of optimal departure vectors alone takes 3 days. "They'll all be dead in 45 minutes, Harrison countered. "We need to improvise." The word hung in the air like a mathematical obscenity. Perfect Angle's face went through several interesting color changes. "Commander," he said finally, his voice strained, "you cannot possibly suggest we abandon proper procedure in a crisis. That would be chaos." "Chaos is better than death," Harrison replied. "Listen to me carefully. We're going to do this the human way. Fast, messy, and effective." Before Perfect Angle could protest, Harrison began issuing orders. "Kumar, calculate the quickest approach vector to that station, and I don't care if it's geometrically perfect. Volkov, coordinate with their station's personnel directly. Bypass their chain of command if you have to. Patel, get our emergency shuttles ready." But, Perfect Angle sputtered, "the proper authorization forms. We'll make excellent radiation shielding if you print enough of them." Harrison interrupted. "Now are you going to help save your people, or are you going to stand there calculating while they die?" Something changed in Perfect Angle's expression. A crack in the perfect mathematical facade. "This is highly irregular. Welcome to the human way of doing things," Harrison replied. "Now order your ships to follow our lead. We'll show you how to handle a real emergency." What followed was perhaps the most chaotic rescue operation in galactic history. Human shuttles flew alongside Regulatory vessels, ignoring the sacred geometric patterns in favor of actual efficiency. Harrison's crew taught the Regulatory emergency teams the human art of winging it, a concept that caused at least 3 administrative nervous breakdowns. "The escape vector isn't perfectly calculated," one Regulatory captain wailed as their ship swooped in to rescue a group of mathematicians. "It doesn't need to be perfect," Kumar replied over the comm. "It just needs to work." Inside the station, Regulatory officials found themselves faced with a choice between following proper evacuation procedures and actually surviving. To their credit, survival instinct won out over geometric perfectionism, though several were heard muttering calculations under their breath as they ran to the escape vessels. "Station sensors detecting leading edge of the radiation wave," Volkov reported. 15 minutes until impact. "Status of evacuation," Harrison demanded. 87% complete, Kumar replied. "But the station's main computer is still transferring their precious mathematical databases, and their technicians refuse to interrupt the process without proper data transfer protocols." Harrison opened a channel to the remaining technicians. "This is Commander Harrison. Get out now. The data isn't worth your lives." But, A horrified voice replied, "These are the sacred calculations, the fundamental theorems. We cannot risk data corruption through improper transfer procedures." Harrison took a deep breath. Which is more geometrically perfect? A complete database with dead mathematicians, or a slightly corrupted one with living ones who can fix it? There was a pause, then the sound of frantic discussion. Finally, your logic, while horrifyingly irregular, contains a certain mathematical validity. The last shuttles launched from the station with minutes to spare, their passengers clutching backup drives and muttering apologies to the spirits of ancient geometers. As the radiation wave hit, the combined human and regular fleet accelerated to safety, their formation looking less like a perfect geometric pattern and more like a whatever works arrangement that would have scandalized any self-respecting regular admiral. In the aftermath, Harrison found perfect angle in the Pioneer's observation lounge, staring at the now irradiated station through the viewport. "Do you know," he said without turning, "that was the first time in recorded regular history that we took action without proper procedural authorization. How does it feel?" Harrison asked. Perfect angle was quiet for a moment. "Disturbing," he admitted. "Chaotic. Irregular." He paused. "Effective. Sometimes," Harrison offered, "the best solution isn't the perfect one. It's the one that works." "A dangerous philosophy," Perfect Angle mused. "And yet, we saved 4,327 lives through this improvisation." His eye twitched slightly. "Though I must insist we round that number to 4,330 for the official report. For geometric elegance." Harrison smiled. "Of course. Though you might want to add a footnote about how geometric elegance took a backseat to practical necessity today." Perfect Angle turned to her, his expression troubled. "Commander, I fear you may have introduced a dangerous concept to my people today." "Oh, the idea that rules can be broken, that chaos can be useful." He shuddered slightly. "Do you have any idea what this could do to our society?" Harrison looked out at the stars. "I think it might make it stronger, more adaptable, more ready for a universe that doesn't always follow perfect mathematical rules." "Perhaps," Perfect Angle admitted reluctantly. "Though I must insist we form at least 3 committees to study the implications." "Of course," Harrison agreed. "Though maybe just one committee would be more efficient." Perfect Angle's eye twitch returned with a vengeance. "One step at a time," Harrison reminded herself. "One geometrically imperfect step at a time." The Great Disruption. 3 months after the Great Station evacuation, Commander Harrison received a priority transmission from Regular High Command. The message was notable both for its content and for the fact that it hadn't gone through the usual 14 layers of communication protocols. "Commander," Perfect Angle's image appeared on her screen, looking distinctly disheveled by regular standards. His uniform was only pressed 9 times instead of the regulation 12. "We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "A pandemic," he replied gravely. "Of efficiency." Harrison managed to keep a straight face. "That sounds serious." "It's devastating. Ever since the evacuation, our people have been experimenting." He whispered the last word, as if it were profane. "Yesterday, a maintenance crew fixed an atmospheric regulator without filing a single geometric alignment form. They just looked at it and figured out what was wrong." "Shocking," Harrison deadpanned. "It gets worse," Perfect Angle continued. "Our junior scientists have started something they call brainstorming sessions. They gather in irregular groups at irregular times and generate irregular ideas, without proper theoretical framework documentation. And are these ideas working?" Perfect Angle's expression was pained. "They've solved 3 engineering problems that our committees have been debating for decades. It's horrible." Harrison leaned back in her chair. "So your people are becoming more efficient, more innovative, and more productive. I'm failing to see the problem." "The problem," Perfect Angle explained, his voice rising, is that chaos is spreading. Our young officers are asking why we need 17 signatures to approve a course correction. Our engineers are suggesting that maybe, just maybe, not everything needs to be perfectly symmetrical to function properly. Someone even proposed. He lowered his voice to a horrified whisper, "Casual Fridays." "The horror," Harrison murmured. "Indeed. Our entire society is built on perfect order, perfect procedure, perfect geometry. And now," he gestured helplessly, "now people are talking about good enough and practical solutions and other such mathematical heresies." "First Administrator," Harrison said gently, "maybe this isn't such a bad thing. Change doesn't have to mean abandoning everything you believe in. It just means adapting. Adapting." Perfect Angle looked like he might faint, like some sort of organic life form. "Exactly. Look at what your people have accomplished in just 3 months. Faster problem solving, more innovation, better results. You haven't lost your appreciation for mathematics and order. You've just added some flexibility to it." Perfect Angle was quiet for a moment. "Some of our younger mathematicians have proposed a new theorem," he admitted reluctantly. "They call it the principle of practical imperfection. The idea that sometimes an imperfect solution that works is better than a perfect solution that doesn't. That sounds very wise. It's causing riots in the geometry department. Well," he amended, "as close to riots as mathematicians get. There's been some very aggressive theorem proving." Harrison couldn't help but smile. Change is never easy, but sometimes it's necessary. You've seen for yourself how effective a little chaos can be. "Yes," Perfect Angle sighed. "Though I must admit, watching our society transform is unsettling. This morning, I found myself making a decision without consulting a single committee. I just decided something on my own." "How did that feel?" "Terrifying," he admitted. "Exhilarating. I think I'm beginning to understand why humans do things this way." He straightened his uniform. "Though I did file the proper documentation afterward. For the archives." "Of course," Harrison nodded. "Balance is important." "Commander," Perfect Angle said suddenly, "our High Council has been discussing your role in this transformation. Some say you've corrupted our perfect society. Others argue that you've helped us evolve." He paused. "We've decided, after only 3 committee meetings, I might add, to propose a permanent cultural exchange program." Harrison raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Yes. We believe that perhaps there is something to learn from your chaotic ways. Though we'll need to establish proper protocols for learning about improper protocols, of course." "Of course," Harrison agreed, fighting back a grin. "We'd be honored to participate." "Excellent. I've already begun drafting the necessary documentation. It should only take 6 months to process instead of the usual 2 years. See, we're becoming quite efficient." As Perfect Angle's image faded from her screen, Harrison reflected on the strange turns the universe sometimes took. Who would have thought that humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization would be teaching a society of geometric perfectionists the value of imperfection? "Commander," Kumar called from his station, "you might want to see this. The Regulari just sent us their latest ship design specifications." Harrison looked at the images on his screen and burst out laughing. The new Regulari ships still maintained their mathematical precision, but now they included some distinctly practical human-inspired modifications. And there, right in the middle of each vessel, was a small section deliberately designed to be asymmetrical. "They're calling it the Chaos Chamber," Kumar explained. "Apparently it's where they go to practice being spontaneous. In carefully regulated intervals, of course." "Progress," Harrison mused, "comes in many shapes, even imperfect ones. And somewhere in the vast geometric perfection of Regulari space, a junior engineer was probably looking at a broken panel right now, glancing furtively around, and reaching for a wrench instead of a procedure manual." The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. even if it wasn't perfectly symmetrical.